Hi there, this is MJ from the Old Man Knives and Tools Amsterdam, and today I'm going to have a look at the factory produced Applegate Fairbairn Daggers. These daggers were designed or conceived by Colonel Rex Applegate. I'll put a link in the description below if you would like to read up on his rich history in combat experience and subsequently knife designing. Its exploits, in combination with the OSS dagger, the British OSS dagger, finally led to an improved design of said British dagger. The first custom model was produced by T.J. Yancey, custom knife maker in 154 cm, American stainless steel. But for larger production numbers and more affordable ones, the Colonel contracted Almar, first of the factory produced models. Now, this actually is one of the very first, a production prototype, serialized. This one's 50 of 200 with a plastic handle. This literally is plastic. Brass crossguard, no spacer in between. In real life you can actually see through this seam and see the tang. Apparently was no issue at the time. 440A stainless steel blade. Now, the next actual production featured green plastic handles, same material, which is very prone to cracking, which eventually led to the Colonel breaking the contract. This one was produced with 440A as well. This one was the latest to be produced by Almar. Titan wood laminate handle that Almar had used on various other knives. Aus 6 Japanese stainless steel, which also might hint at another shift in manufacture, as Almar had different contracts with different Japanese manufacturers, which you can see by minute differences. Say the positioning of his logo, the height of the ricasso, the font of his name, and the thickness of the crossguard. Much more thick on this one, and this one has the highest ricasso thus far. I think one of the manufacturers was Moki of Japan, while various others have been contracted by Almar, which led to these different designs, or let's say different telltale signs. Well, even though this handle was an improvement, these cracked handle models that were returned left their mark. Plus, the Colonel personally found the shiny finish that Almar had applied to distinguish from the T.J. Yancey custom models too shiny. It was too shiny to the Colonel's taste. It made them impractical for the people that he intended them for. Army personnel, or anyone working in law enforcement, was allowed to carry a combat dagger. So mostly army personnel, I guess. Which led to a new contract being signed. Second. Blackjack USA was the next to take up. This is one of them. The smudging is because this is an A2 steel variant. A small batch of these were made with A2 tool steel, more susceptible to rust. The previous seller actually decided to clean up, or try to clean up on the rust, but he caused even worse damage, I guess. But it still is a very rare piece. This is a stainless steel variant. 440A, made in USA by Blackjack Knives. Delrin or Lexon handles, I think Lexon. But again, this introduced a handle problem, as corners were cut, as far as the Blackjack article has been interpreted by me on making these handles. Just one mold was used for both handle halves, which cause cracking, as you can see here, predominantly at the thong hole, where these two halves are actually fixated. They swivel, but they cannot be separated, so this is a point of much stress, which caused many a cracked handle pair being sent back, which financially was a disaster. Now, the Almars and the Blackjacks, and actually every subsequent model, had removable weights in order for any soldier to customize the balance of his knife. These are being glued into separate compartments by Blackjack. The Almar has glued-in rods, 2 on each half, not in separate compartments. You can easily take them out, although I would fear breaking or damaging the handle when prying them loose. Same with these. Because of the cracked handle on this one, I replaced it with a Böker handle. Böker Germany, the current producer of knives, with an actual contract with the Colonel's family, I guess, his descendants, as his name is still on there. More sturdy material with more easily to remove weights, 1 on each side. Now the tang remains unsupported. The tang ends about here, just above the thong hole, which does not make these daggers the best for giving pommel strikes. I'm not sure why the tang was left unsupported. Now, all these returned handles, all these warranty issues eventually led to a breaking of the contract with Blackjack. So production moved on to Böker. Böker Germany. This is a presentation grade model made in 440C stainless, which is what most of the Böker models are made with. Ebony handle, but the standard models are made with the same material as this is. It might be Zytel, I'm not sure. Whoops. Commemorative model was being made, as in 2014 it had been 100 years since the birth of the Colonel himself. So Böker introduced a model with 154 cm American steel, non-German, which stayed more true to the original TJ Yancey custom models that it all started with. This is what the regular current models look like. And speaking of custom knife makers, this was one designed by Bill Harsey. Broader blade, bit shorter, wider handle, protruding tang for hammering or for striking. Here we can see one with flat serrations. If I read correctly, this was another introduction of Bill Harsey. And we're looking at the sheath that belongs to this knife here. A boot dagger, a miniature version, as you can tell by the length difference. Another Bill Harsey influence, if I'm correct. Flat on one side, which makes this effectively a convex blade. I was foolish enough to try to remove this handle while being somewhat rushed, so I destroyed the tube that held the 2 Allen heads, but I managed to replace it by a makugi, a bamboo pin that holds into place katana handles, or the handles of samurai swords. It works just fine. This is more portable for everyday carry, that is, in those places where you are allowed to carry a dagger. Now let's have a quick look at some custom models. This is actually an auction catalog of the Colonel's collection, the late Colonel, his collection, which was sold to me by Sheldon Wickersham, who was kind enough to part from this rare piece of documentation. My thanks go to Sheldon for this, and for writing the awesome article that I'll put in the link below. The development of the dagger by the Colonel. Top model here was a prototype made by Al Buck of Buck Knives. Now we're looking at some TJ Yancey's here. first custom knife maker. If you find a white-handled one, hold on to it. Those are custom presentation models, very rare. William Harsey. Even black coated models, if I'm correct. Lexan handles, very rare, highly collectible. Some more Almars that we're looking at right now. It's the evolution of the knife. Blackjack. But it didn't stop with these daggers. Ah, there we are. Smash it. Another thing the Colonel invented. Truly a combat weapon. It's a combination of a hatchet and a dagger, you could say. You could smash, hack with it, and even stab. So this was a self-defense tool. Not intended as a machete, purely a self-defense tool, if I remember correctly. Ah, folding knives. Colonel had a contract with Gerber, who still produces these folders up to today. 3 different sizes: the mini, covert, the covert folder, and this one that we're looking at, which is fairly large. Think about the bottom of the page to, well, it doesn't really mean much. I guess the width of this page, of this booklet, standard A4 size. Combat folder made by Gerber. And where it all started with. The OSS dagger that inspired the Colonel. Now for the collector there are some differences to be looked at. So if you look at these Almars, because of the contracts with different Japanese manufacturers, you see differences in the prints, the height of the stamp, height of the ricasso, and even in the blackjack models you can see the printing, or the engraving, the laser etching varies in its location, which is all very interesting for people who like to collect the rare models within a certain series, such as these. I hope this provides you with something to think about, and I'll definitely put some links below on information that you can read up on the daggers, on the life of the Colonel, and on the estate, the Applegate House, that you can still visit, which is run by his descendants, who were actually kind enough to write me back and offer me some information on books. For those interesting, I'll put a link to the best book in the description below, on the Colonel's life, with whom he lived, how he came to these designs, and how he went through his career in the military. So as you can hear, there's much more behind these daggers than just a shape and a steel, which you will no doubt see when you read the article, starting with the Wickersham one. That's the best one to start with. So I'd also like to thank Henk Kraaivanger for supplying me with this green handle piece from his collection. I know it was difficult for him to part of, but I'm really thankful to have been able to include this in this comparison. And Hajo Wilkes of Böker, Germany, for supplying me with this handle, which actually fits. And I can hereby actually affirm that on the production models made by Blackjack, Boker and Almar, the contours are made to almost the exact same specifications, which means that the handles are actually interchangeable. Although the Almar did have slightly thicker blade stock, so you have to remove the weights on, say, the Böker grip, these stainless steel weights, in order for it to fit. But it is a comforting thought for those collectors who have a Blackjack or an Almar with a broken handle. Perhaps you can find a spare pair of Böker handles and rehandle yours to make it fully functional again. It's just a thought. So this ends this throwback on the Applegate Fairbairn design. I wish you good collecting and a very nice day. Thank you for watching.